It's 2019. A luxury watch sits behind glass in a Dubai mall. The price tag reads $47,000. Somewhere in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, a man is bleeding into the dirt of a mine shaft. He will not see a doctor. He will not see tomorrow. There is a direct line between these two moments. Most people will never know it exists. Here is how it unfolded. By the time this video is published, new details may have emerged. But the system that made this possible, that system is still running. The Democratic Republic of Congo sits at the center of Africa. It is one of the most resource-rich nations on the planet. Gold, cobalt, coltan, diamonds. The ground beneath it contains an estimated $24 trillion in untapped minerals. 24 trillion. That number is so large it stops meaning anything unless you understand what people are willing to do to control it. And for decades, armed groups in this country have understood one thing with absolute clarity. Whoever controls the mines controls everything. Not just the money, the territory, the roads, the people, the future. This is the Eastern DRC, a region the size of Western Europe, governed, in theory, by Kinshasa, the capital more than 1,000 miles away, controlled in practice by whoever has the most weapons and the willingness to use them. There are over 120 armed militias operating in this region right now. 120. Some are backed by neighboring governments pursuing their own resource agendas. Some are backed by corporations operating through layers of deniability. Most are backed by no one except the gold they extract by force. Gold that funds their weapons, their fighters, and their continued existence. The civilians who live here are not bystanders in this story. They are the workforce. Men, women, and children working at gunpoint in artisanal mines called creuseurs. No equipment beyond what they carry. No protection beyond survival instinct. No pay beyond the right to keep breathing another day. The gold they pull from the earth is worth billions on the global market. They will never see a single dollar of it. But that was just the beginning of how this system works. To understand how conflict gold moves from a mine shaft in Eastern Congo to a display case in Dubai, you have to understand the architecture of the system built specifically to move it, and to make that movement invisible. It starts at the mine. Armed groups control specific territories with military precision. The FDLR, the Mai Mai, the NDC renovated. Each controls its patch, its tunnels, its workforce. They do not mine the gold themselves. They tax the people who do. A cut of every gram extracted, a toll on every path out. Nothing moves without their permission and their percentage. The miner carries the gold out of the earth. The armed group takes its share at the gate. This is how a conflict is funded. This is how it continues. From the mine, the gold passes to what is called a negociant, a local trader. A middleman who asks no questions because questions are bad for business and sometimes bad for survival. The negociant pays cash, no receipts, no records, no paper trail connecting the gold to the gunmen who controlled the mine it came from. He then sells to a comptoir, a registered export house. This is where something remarkable happens. At the comptoir, paperwork appears, official-looking documents, stamps, certifications. The paperwork says the gold came from a certified conflict-free source. This is what investigators have come to call laundering through bureaucracy. The gold has not changed. The violence that extracted it has not changed. But on paper, on official, stamped, government-registered paper, it is now clean. The system made one fatal mistake in assuming no one was watching closely enough. They were wrong, but for years, the mistake paid off. The gold crosses into Uganda, into Rwanda, into Burundi. These countries have their own gold export figures. And some of those figures are remarkable in ways that should have triggered immediate international scrutiny, but did not. Uganda, a country with almost no significant gold deposits of its own, was exporting hundreds of tons of gold annually at the peak of this trade. Hundreds of tons. From a country with virtually no mines producing it. In 2019,
the evidence is clear.
A UN group of experts report found that Uganda exported gold worth $514 million. in a year when its own domestic production was essentially zero. $514 million of gold. From nowhere. That gold came from somewhere. Everyone in the supply chain knew exactly where. Almost no one said so publicly, because saying so publicly was expensive and dangerous, and because the money flowing through the system reached people who had reasons to keep it quiet. From the regional transit hubs, the gold moves to refining centers. Dubai has become the world's single largest destination for African gold. And a significant portion of that gold, according to multiple independent investigations, originates in or passes through conflict zones. The refiners in Dubai are not all the same. Some operate with genuine due diligence programs. Some ask hard questions and turn away gold they cannot verify. But many do not. Many process what arrives, ask what the paperwork says rather than what the truth is, and produce refined gold bars that enter the global commodities market as legitimate, certified product. At this point in the chain, the gold is indistinguishable. There is no physical difference between gold refined from a certified ethical source and gold refined from a mine controlled at gunpoint by an armed militia in Eastern Congo. The refining process removes the evidence. What comes out the other side is just gold. Pure, valuable, clean, and it is purchased by manufacturers, by jewelry houses, by electronics companies, by watch brands, by the entire apparatus of the global luxury goods industry. The system made its bet on distance and complexity, keeping it safe. They were not working from comfortable offices with full institutional support. They were operating in one of the most dangerous environments on Earth. Investigating armed groups in Eastern DRC is not like investigating corporate fraud from a law firm in Geneva or a newsroom in London. People disappear here. Sources stop talking, not because they changed their minds, but because someone changed their situation. Witnesses who agreed to speak on Monday are unreachable by Thursday. The risks are not abstract. They are immediate and physical, and sometimes fatal. And yet the evidence accumulated anyway, because the investigators kept going back, kept cross-referencing, kept building the picture piece by piece, even when pieces went missing or sources went silent. For the first time, a major government had legally required corporations to examine their own supply chains and report what they found. It was imperfect legislation. It had critics on both sides, industry groups who said it was unworkable, and advocates who said it did not go nearly far enough. Many companies reported clean supply chains, conflict-free, fully verified. Independent investigators told a different story. The problem was structural, and it was not accidental. A gold bar that passes through 4 countries, 3 sets of paperwork, 2 trading companies, and 1 refinery is nearly impossible to trace back to a specific mine in a specific region controlled by a specific armed group. That opacity, that deliberate, constructed, carefully maintained opacity, was not a flaw in the system. It was the system. The untraceable nature of the journey was the product being sold at every stage. According to UN investigators, the M23 was backed by Rwanda, a charge Rwanda denied. And during the occupation, the mines kept running. The gold kept moving. The paperwork kept being stamped. The watches kept being sold. The distance between the mine and the mall held. And everyone who needed it to hold kept it there. Here is what the official reports left out.
The data speaks for itself. We are committed to transparency.
With banking relationships with international financial institutions whose names you would recognize. With insurance policies underwritten in London by firms operating under full regulatory oversight. The infrastructure of legitimate global commerce, banking, insurance, registration, certification, was being used at every level to process and legitimize gold that had been extracted through violence and coercion. And no one at the top of the chain, no executive at a watch brand, no procurement officer at a jewelry house, no compliance director at a refinery, was asking the one question that would have unraveled the entire structure. Where exactly did this come from? Not where the paperwork says it came from. Where did it actually come from? That question was not asked. Not not because the people at the top did not know it needed to be asked, but because asking it and getting an honest answer would have been very, very expensive, and the gold was too profitable to risk the honest answer. One investigator, speaking after the project concluded, described it in terms that have stayed with everyone who heard them. The figures that emerged from the investigation were staggering in their scale. Estimates from multiple independent sources suggested that between $1 billion and $4 billion worth of conflict-linked gold was entering the legitimate global market every single year. Every year. Not as a one-time event, not as an isolated scandal, but as a continuous, annual, systematic flow. The industry responded. That much is true. Within weeks of the African Gold Project reports going public, industry bodies convened emergency sessions. Statements were drafted and released. Press releases went out on official letterhead expressing deep concern and unwavering commitment to responsible sourcing. Voluntary certification schemes that had existed quietly on paper for years were suddenly announced as being strengthened, expanded, made more rigorous. Companies that had never mentioned their supply chain policies publicly now published them on their websites in dedicated sections with professional design and careful language. The performance of accountability is not the same thing as accountability, but it photographs well. And for a period of several months, it was enough to move the story off the front pages. Several refiners in Dubai were flagged by investigators as being central nodes in the conflict gold network. Some of them lost what is called good delivery status. Then new refiners emerged to fill the gap. New companies, new names, new registrations. But in many cases, the same networks, the same relationships, the same gold moving through slightly reconfigured pipelines. New paperwork was generated. New routes were opened through different jurisdictions with different levels of regulatory scrutiny. In the Democratic Republic of Congo itself, the government in Kinshasa made periodic announcements about formalizing the artisanal mining sector, bringing it into a regulated framework, issuing licenses to legitimate cooperatives. Formalizing it means cutting armed groups out of their single most profitable revenue stream. And armed groups, by definition, do not accept being cut out of their revenue streams peacefully. They fight, they threaten, they make examples. Several government officials who pushed hardest for genuine reform in the Eastern mining sector received threats serious enough that their families were relocated. Some were killed. Their replacements understood the message. The announcements continued. The reform did not. The mines kept running exactly as they had before, because the alternative to the mines running as they had before was a level of confrontation that no one with the power to authorize it was willing to pay for. The $47,000 watch behind the glass in Dubai was still there. A different watch now. A different model year, a different serial number, a newer case design with a subtly updated dial. But the same gold, processed through the same system. The customer who bought it almost certainly did not know. And the people who did know, the people at the specific points in the chain where the knowledge existed and where a different decision could have been made, had calculated correctly that not knowing was more profitable than knowing. As of today, the conflict gold trade continues. The Eastern DRC remains one of the most dangerous places on Earth. The numbers attached to what has happened there over the past 3 decades are so large they risk becoming abstract, which is exactly what the system depends on. The death toll from Congo's overlapping conflicts since 1996 is estimated at over 6 million people. 6 million. It is one of the deadliest sustained conflicts since the Second World War. A conflict that has run for nearly 30 years, that has displaced millions, that has destroyed communities and generations and futures. The UN group of experts continues to publish its annual reports on the mineral trade in the DRC. They are detailed. They are specific. They name names, trace routes, document transactions. They are read by diplomats and development officials and filed carefully in institutional archives. And they are a fraction, a small, insufficient, meaningful, but inadequate fraction of the total picture. What happened to the people at the center of this story? The miners in Eastern Congo, the cruisers, are still there. Different people, in many cases. They built that distance into the system. The system is still running. The gold is still moving. The watch is still behind the glass. And the man who bled into the dirt of the mine shaft will not see a doctor. He will not see tomorrow. Most people will never know he existed. That too was part of the design.